Hello, everyone. This is Emily Sheltry. I am a career coach here at Clarkson, and this is a brief video to introduce LinkedIn, talk about some of the basics of getting started. And I will also show you how to connect with alumni via LinkedIn, so how to use that alumni search feature tool. And finally, I'll talk a little bit about that jobs and internships tab as well. So the first thing I want to briefly mention before I get started is that it's okay if your LinkedIn looks a little bit different from other people's. And it's also okay to build your network and to look at other people's LinkedIns to see what you like. So just like your resume, just like your cover letter, this is all about building your personal brand. And so sometimes the right answer is just going to be what you think looks the best, right? Or what you think is the best way to organize your experience, your thoughts in a way that positively represents you. So, all of this is mostly just a way to introduce LinkedIn. So, the first thing you'll want to consider is your profile headline. So, this is a short, memorable, professional slogan or description. And remember that it follows you throughout LinkedIn. So this is besides your name and your profile picture, this might be the first impression that people have of you. So a great way to kind of figure out what you like is to check out other people's profiles for ideas, but also to know that it's okay to make it your own. So this is my own profile. Feel free to send me a connection request if you'd like to. But you'll notice I just have career coach at Clarkson University. For example, Bill Jeffers, who also works in our office and is a career coach, he has career services professional, helping the Clarkson community succeed. So obviously that's like a little bit more information, right? It's a slightly different take. Heather DeFino, who is our director, you'll notice she just has her job title. So different things work for different people, and that's absolutely okay. But just know that this is like an example where you can actually see that this is basically what follows you around LinkedIn. So just as a first impression, that's important to keep in mind. The other thing that you'll want to start to do is to think about your why. So this isn't just why you're on LinkedIn, but this is actually why do you work? Why do you like what you do? Why did you choose to do what you do? And there's another video up as well on our YouTube that talks a little bit about strengths, values, and interests. That might be a good place to start if you're unsure of this, but your professional summary is basically a place to frame your past, to highlight your experience, to show a little bit of your personality. So it's a really great way to show a little bit about your life outside of your work, maybe. So what are some other things that are meaningful to you? It's a great place to ask for what you want. And ultimately, I do recommend writing this how you speak. So say, for example, we can take a look at Bill's here. So Bill has a very short description here, right? So just a quote that sort of drives what he does. Some of his values and strengths are really highlighted there, but it's pretty brief. Versus maybe we'll go back to Heather's profile again. Heather's is a little bit longer, right? And it's a little bit more about what motivates her. And you'll notice that she actually doesn't have anything here about being a career coach or being a director of career services. And that's really interesting because even though that's her job, that's not what's motivating her. It's not the position title that's motivating her to do what she does, right? And it's giving a little bit more insight. So feel free within your own industry. Maybe you have specific professors that you really admire. Maybe you have alumni or other connections in your industry that you look up to. Take a look at what they're doing. And then again, feel free to, add a little bit of your personality in there as well. The next step, and these are some inspiration, feel free to pause if you'd like and read through these. But the next step, I think, is to start organizing your thoughts. Maybe you start with kind of a hook, and then actually these are a few more, so feel free again to pause, read through them if you'd like. You'll notice within each of them, they again are giving a little bit more insight into who they are, not just as a candidate or as a professional, but also just who they are as a person, right? So from there, you get to actually start building out your profile, again, to really reflect who you are. So how you would do that is you actually go to your own profile. You can say edit public profile and URL. And from there, you can see basically this is what your profile will look like to the public. That's a nice way to kind of check it out. But from here, you can add different profile sections. So this is a nice way to start to draw attention to the things that you're most excited about highlighting. So that about section that we talked about, education. Maybe, for example, you'd like to add some licenses and certifications. And then there are even lots of great additional things as well. So maybe, for example, your focus area is research. You might want to add some publications, right? Maybe patents eventually, honors and awards. Maybe you speak multiple languages. You want to highlight that here. So again, there's no right or wrong answer, but try to think through how you can build out a profile that best represents who you actually are. So your experience section, I think, is one of the most important pieces. That might include things like co-ops, internships, and research. But especially if you're just starting out, maybe you don't have those just yet. Academic projects and other related experiences, whether that's clubs or speed teams or on-campus employment, those are a really great way to also highlight your experience and highlight the skills that you've been able to build. You can also copy directly from your resume. So you could do those bullet points for each experience that you've already worked out on your resume. And you can also use this as an opportunity to expand a little bit. So if you feel like you're in that place where maybe you have things that don't fit on your resume, but you'd also like to share them, if you do share your LinkedIn link right on your resume, that can be a nice way to make sure that people see those. Your skills section is also a really great way to start building some interest. And actually, this is one of the main ways that recruiters will use to search for you. So make sure you have that skills section filled out. You can always find relevant skills listed in job descriptions. That might be a good way to start thinking about what you're really good at. And then the other thing I really recommend is being specific and being honest. So say, for example, a recruiter asked you maybe what your experience is with C++. Don't overstate what that experience is. Give them some specific examples. So you might say, I'm comfortable with doing this and this specific function, but over the course of next semester, I'm looking forward to learning about this specific aspect of C++. So Don't overstate those because it really can cause issues later on in the hiring process, and you don't want to put yourself in a position that does that. You can also add examples of your work to add interest as well. So it has LinkedIn actually has a section where you might be able to upload specific things. So don't be afraid to do that too. If maybe, for example, you have a website that has some of like your CAD drawings, for example, or maybe you are in digital arts and you want to share some things, feel free to share those on LinkedIn too. That's a really great way to get in front of people, get those noticed. All right, so once you have your profile feeling ready to go, and you can always stop into the Career Center, connect with us, let us know that you'd like to talk about your profile, and we can help you make sure you feel like you're putting your best foot forward. From there, another great way to start connecting with people is if you search in this search bar, Clarkson University, and then you go to our school page. From there, if you click alumni, you can actually start to see Clarkson alumni, and you can filter by where they work, what they do, their major even, right? So what they're skilled at, or this is their major. This how you're connected piece, this actually means basically how many degrees of separation you have from that person. So like if you're first connections, right? These are all people who I am either actually connected with, or if you try, like, for example, second, these are all people who I and that person have a shared connection. So that means you're basically like 1 degree of separation. So that's what that does. But for our purposes, I think the more helpful ones are actually searching by different criteria here. So say, for example, you are going to the career fair and maybe you want to learn a little bit more about Whiting Turner, for example, right? They're one of our great Hire and Night sponsors, but you can actually search for a specific company under where they work. We have 57 alumni there. That's quite a lot. And then you can start scrolling through, right? So maybe, for example, you'd like to work with Whiting Turner and you are a civil engineer. You can actually start to see what people do, what their job titles are. Dylan, for example, tends to come to career fair. But you can start to get a feel for, for example, this headline piece, right? Maybe you start to get a feel for what kinds of headlines might be normal in the industry, but you can also connect with people. And that's a really nice way to start to build your network in a meaningful way. But I always encourage not only connecting with somebody, but actually sending a note along with it. And this is where you might ask for advice. You might ask for information. I don't encourage like asking for anything that requires them to do additional work, but just asking somebody about what they do and what their day-to-day looks like, for example, is a really nice way to get a conversation started. So maybe you say, hi, I'm a current Clarkson student. I would love to work with Whiting Turner. And I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about what you do, or I was just hoping you might be willing to tell me a little bit about what some of the skills were that you highlighted in the hiring process that you think made you successful. So ask for information to start with, and then this is a really nice way to start building up your network. The reverse is also true, right? So maybe you don't have a specific company in mind, but you'd like to look through what other alumni are doing. Maybe, for example, you are a math major, right? So you can see all of the Clarkson alumni listed here that studied math. I will note that in this what they studied field, it's not going to be exactly the same as Clarkson's majors. And the reason for that is they're basically just trying to bridge what we might call a specific major here and what another school might call a major that is learning sort of like the same skills and same concepts, but they might call it something just a little bit different. So, you'll have to play around with that just a little bit. But say, for example, you're a math major, you can actually look at where math majors work. So our most common areas, this by no means means that those are like the only places you can work, but maybe, for example, you'd love to live in Boston. That's another way to narrow it down. And then you can actually start to look through and see basically like who people are, what they do. And again, note that they have all of these little headings here, this description that can kind of be your first impression of that person, right? So feel free to scroll through, feel free to click on people and see what they do, what kinds of things they're emphasizing on their own profiles, and then eventually feel free to connect and learn a little bit more about who they are and what they do as well. So that's that alumni search feature. Another great way to use that is to think about not just your Clarkson network, but your overall network. So maybe you're part of Greek Life, or maybe you've done a co-op and you met people on that co-op. Anyone you meet or anyone that is part of your network is a great person to connect with. Another way to actually connect with people is to thank them for meeting you, right? So maybe you go to career fair, or maybe you went to a conference or another networking type event. Feel free to just send a thank you note, right? Thanks so much for taking the time to connect with me at career fair. It was really great to learn about this project that you have going on, right? So don't be scared to just connect with people. And most importantly, start building your network before you need it. So another great feature of LinkedIn is actually this jobs section. And the more that you update your profile and your skills section and make connections with people, the more it'll actually give you specific, basically recommendations that are in line with what you're currently doing. That doesn't necessarily mean that these will all be in line with what you're doing. And you'll notice mine are kind of strange just because I also look for jobs for other people as well. So, a little bit strange, but feel free. So say, for example, you're looking for a computer programming internship. Feel free to search through and like maybe, for example, you find one that you're interested in. Feel free to visit, but also feel free to learn more about the company by visiting their profile, and even seeing if there are any Clarkson alumni listed there, right? So same thing. You can say Clarkson University. So it looks like in this case, there's nobody listed there. Don't be discouraged. Always feel free to come see us in the Career Center, but this is another cool way to kind of figure out where alumni might sort of be hiding that could help you out. In your case, it'll probably say Clarkson here, but it'll even tell you right up front if there are some alumni working there that you might be able to connect with. A few other brief tips and tricks are to make sure that you have a professional photo. And that doesn't mean that it has to be a photo taken by a professional. It just means that that photo has to be professional in nature, right? So whatever you're wearing should be something that you would wear in a professional setting, whatever that means for you and for your industry. You can use a banner to add a little bit more information about who you are, what your values are. You can actually edit your public profile and URL. So if you go to your page right here, edit public profile and URL, this is a nice way to cut that down so it's not a bunch of, letters and numbers and kind of looking messy. It'll look much cleaner if you actually have just your name or some version of your name. And then again, really take advantage of adding experience from your resume and from what you've done so far. Adding experience is really important because typically when you connect with somebody, the first thing they're going to do is click through to your profile. They want to know a little bit more about who you are, what you do, frankly, why you might be connecting with them. And so it's really important that you have some information there to make that connection go a little bit more smoothly. And then finally, connect. So connecting is really important. We know that quite a large majority of jobs are actually secured through networking or through connections that people have, but this doesn't mean that you're not a great fit. It just means that connecting is really important. And again, it's important to start building your network before you need it, right? So if you're just reaching out when you decide that you're looking for a job, you're missing out on connections you could have been making throughout your time here at Clarkson and potentially even before. So that being said, feel free to connect with us in the new year. So in January 2023, we will have open hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 1. And then we'll also have open hours on Wednesdays from 1 to 3. We will also have appointments available on Handshake. And we have our career email, so career@clarkson.edu. Feel free to connect with us if you'd like to talk about your LinkedIn in more detail. We're always happy to go over it with you and make comments and suggestions, or just to show you how to leverage that for a more meaningful connection. So don't hesitate to connect with us, but take advantage of LinkedIn. Start early if you can, and let us know if you have any questions. Thanks so much for tuning in.